There's a phrase called loss of innocence. The Sixth Parliament, which came in 1996, was very idealistic. Remember, the new constitution had just been enacted in 1995. There was a lot of optimism. We were almost like 1962. Union Jack lowered, the flag of Uganda hoisted, and you have a young, dynamic prime minister, I think 36 years old, with a brilliant cabinet, you know, really star-studded. The same way you look at the Bushmen that Andrew Mwenda has been talking about when they came in 1986. You had the promises on the steps of Parliament in 1986. Everybody was willing to sacrifice. I remember doing business was a crime if you were a soldier. You could be reported. It would be a matter to be discussed in the high command. So and so is doing business. How can you do business? But now, business has become business. So, we came to the Sixth Parliament and we tackled all the issues. And remember, we were in the movement system. We came to work together to solve the country's problems. And we were elected on individual merit. People knew we belonged to parties, but by and large, I think a very good crop of people, a good stock, nothing like this new stock, old stock debate. It was the best stock. If I run my mind's eye across the chamber, I would see across from me, you have got people like Dr. Kule Park across. On my left, I see Dora Biamukama. Right behind me, Ben Wacha, Agria Wari is there. Winnie Bianyima is there. You know, the speaker was spoiled for choice. So, we also didn't bother so much about, you know, local issues. Remember, we had the duty to lay the foundation of a reconstructed state. The parliament was new. I was a member of the Rules Committee. Ben Wacha was our chairman. We started drafting the rules of procedure of Parliament from scratch. We designed it, we laid the foundation, we picked whatever was good from wherever and came up with those rules of procedure. Then we started passing the laws, of course working with the government, the cabinet, to pass the laws that would actualize the aspirations that are stated in the Constitution. The most important, the Land Act, 1998. We really, then we went on to pass so many other laws establishing constitutional commissions and all these statutory bodies. The optimism in the air was amazing. And we were few, we were 214. You could speak for 1 hour, it didn't matter. I remember when the motion came that there should be a select committee established to carry out an inquiry on the war in northern Uganda. The government opposed it. The Prime Minister was Apollon Sibambi. He said, no, we cannot appoint a select committee. We who were supporting the motion led by Honorable Zachary Olum and Agri Awori, we were a minority. We were perceived as, you know, opposition in quotes. Then Eli Karuhanga came with an idea and requested the Speaker to allow those in support of the motion and those opposed, at least their leaders, to go to the lobby and consult. That was the spirit at that time, to attack the problem rather than each other. We always spend time looking at the issues. So the movers of the motion and the opposers went to the lobby and came back, and they had agreed. And the agreement was simple, that we will not establish a select committee, but we will assign the Committee on Defense and Internal Affairs to carry out that inquiry. I had not registered as a member of the Defense and Internal Affairs Committee. You should have seen me rush to the notice board to add my name. Those days, it was not a question of who assigns you to which committee. The list was open. You had to go and write your name. We knew that we were actually serving, and the pay was not much, like 1.1 million shillings. There was no money for cars. You were given a loan, which you repaid through your salary. And there was what they call mileage allowance. So you fill the government form and you state how many kilometers you have to drive to your constituency. In my case, 337 was the kilometers to Gulu municipality, which I was given. And then you get about 600,000 shillings as a mileage allowance. Because most of us were indebted, you could not even bank the Bank of Uganda check. You had to go and line up in the banking hall of Bank of Uganda and get cash to put your body and soul together. So the idealism that drove the 6th Parliament and the 7th Parliament faded eventually. I don't think the pressure of the constituency was any less, but was the right kind of pressure. Constituents always put pressure. The pressure that Andrew Mwenda is talking about today is the pressure for what you would call cash from the MP's pocket. So basically, they see you as a member of parliament, you are also an ATM. So when people are sending death announcements about somebody totally unknown to the member of parliament, he is also mentioned as somebody who should be informed. So automatically, a member of parliament is informed of every death. So many members of parliament now have assistants who go to every funeral. And on that account, they get re-elected. And because the people say, he always buries. So one of the requirements to be a successful member of parliament now is to have a water bowser, so that you can take water wherever there's a burial, where there's probably no borehole. And so you should have a truck which can carry mourners, or carry a coffin, or carry other people. You should buy an ambulance. The Minister of Health recently said what the MPs call ambulances are actually not ambulances. They just get any kind of vehicle and write on it ambulance. I won't be surprised if tomorrow my great-grandfather Andrew Mwenda does not write Rolls-Royce on his car. It will not make it a Rolls-Royce. So writing ambulance on any car does not make it an ambulance. But more importantly, we also struggle to tame individuals who we thought were using their offices for financial gain. Andrew Mwenda and I have a story that I don't know who is going to die first, but we should agree to write it, and the one who remains should have the duty of publishing it.
No, we can say it should be published posthumously when both of us are dead.
Yes.
We can leave it in our joint will.
Yes, because it was a very interesting collaboration. And this is the kind of collaboration which makes you feel good to fight for the public. So as you assess Parliament, as you talk about the bills you have passed and so on, which wars have you won on behalf of the public? which real, what real wars have you won? So that is the question that parliamentarians should be asking themselves. During censure motions, we had these back and forth movements, and it was not easy. We had to become investigative journalists, to take evidence to the floor of the House. And while investigating the war in the North, we traveled up to London. We had to hunt down people like Peter Otai. It was actually Masanga who helped us. He was driving us around in an old battered car. But first we had to convince him that we were authentic and we were not hired killers. We listened to a lot of evidence from Ugandans in exile. And when we came back, we disagreed in the committee. And Honorable Mara Tubo and I had to sit in his chambers, and we drafted a minority report. I think I should publish that minority report. The tone of minority reports these days is not to persuade anybody. It is just to grandstand and basically show defiance. We presented a very reasonable minority report, and I can tell you, Timothy, as I talk now, all the ideas which the Parliament rejected at that time were eventually embraced. There's nothing better than to be alive when things you said should be done were not done on account that they were unreasonable and unacceptable, and eventually they get done. We said, close the IDP camps. They were closed. We said, enact an amnesty law. It was enacted to encourage people who had been abducted and forced to join the LRA to leave. We said, talk to the LRA. Eventually, peace talks started in Juba. We said, open diplomatic relations with Khartoum so that you speak directly, government to government, instead of accusing each other of fighting a proxy war through rebels in each other's territory. Of course, the controversial one, which made many people to refuse to sign our minority report, was we need a return to multi-party democracy. Most people say, don't mix up these issues. If we had left that one out, I think the majority of members of Parliament would have agreed with the minority. So our demand that we should return to multi-party democracy immediately sort of poisoned our minority report. So we have a lot to teach the 12th Parliament.
Okay.
And I am not of the school of thought that we should teach them how to steal money so that they can be successful. I think we should give them the skills. And I agree fully that at that time also, the public spirit was very, very high. The people were not thinking so much about constituencies, and we were modest. Most of us left our cars in the constituency, so you take a bus and then you go to the constituency and you have a small car to move around in, and then on Monday you board the bus and come. That's how some of us fell into an ambush one day. We were hit by a rocket-propelled grenade, and we survived. Bullets were flying from all directions eventually, but the driver was brave. we were also united as young parliamentarians. We caucused across the aisle. I don't know how much caucusing exists now across the aisle between the opposition and the NRM on important national issues. Sometimes we would think of what I have now been proposing, that the 12th Parliament should embrace the idea of a caucus of the whole House, where people discuss important national issues. If you are talking about industrial parks, do you really have NRM and opposition on that issue? If you are talking about markets for our products, if you are talking about linking every district with the tarmac roads, so the idea of a caucus of the whole House is very important. So we don't need a kind of speaker who is going to show the power of the NRM. The NRM already showed its power in the election. What more are you going to prove?
Thank you, Honorable Mao.
This peacock politics has to stop. Threatening that you are going to wallop an opposition, which was already walloped in the election. So what other walloping are you talking about? The opposition is busy trying to increase its number to avoid a walloping. All the opposition parties reduced their numbers. FDC from 37 to 9, NUP from 57 to 48, DP from 9 to 6. It is only UPC that increased slightly to 12. So the kind of language we use, it is as if we don't know the history of Uganda. If we really understand our history, let us empower the parliamentarians, first and foremost, to believe in themselves. I think 12th Parliament is going to be the most traumatized parliament. From what I see about the debate on the election of the speaker, every time there's a signal, they troop. Tomorrow, if they announce that the next speaker is from Kanyandai, we will all rush to Kanyandai. It will become a pilgrimage. So the parliamentarians are going to start their work under a lot of trauma, or wondering whether they are politically correct or politically wrong. People don't know what to say and what not to say. They've even forgotten that they have the mandate of the people. They've forgotten that the Constitution says power belongs to the people. This political trauma.
Thank you, Honorable. Allow me bring in finally Dr. Shamim. Doctor, especially there's a lot of organizational, cultural change as a country. And Honorable Mao mentioned it well. All these tribes came together, but we have never found a center that brings us together. How do we find the Uganda we need and the Uganda we desire?